You're on.
Great team. What we took on was utilizing Slack to trigger a response from a public API to be able to provide us with a market capability, finding a market, an open market, and the location would be within one of the 5 boroughs of New York. So team members Lee, Helen, Sakura, is this right? John Cohen. We utilized, well, going through the purpose, as I explained. Tools used, we used Slack, Whisk, Node-RED, and our
New York
browser
City.
in New York City.
API.
Yeah, and one of the biggest problems that we learned is that it's one thing to know that there's an open API there, and it's a whole nother thing to figure out exactly how to invoke it correctly with the right query parameters and everything. I think that took the most time of anything, was getting that.
And keeping valid keys, because we found a couple we really liked,
Yeah.
but the keys, we just getting them back and being able to enable them, or if, like we found one from the New York Times, that even with the open key, it just would not allow us to process, so.
Yeah.
So we're, go ahead, sorry.
Okay. So then basically, we started off looking through different API sets, and we knew we were time constrained. So we ended up picking New York City Open Data, and they actually have several thousand, and we had to sift through and find the ones that came out in JSON format, but then also with the categories that we were looking for. So there are also API sets that are open, you don't need a key, but you have to clean up the data or redo the whole API so it has the categories. So we ended up doing 2. One of them locates fresh markets according to the borough of New York City you're in. And then we did an exercise earlier in the week. We decided to do the same thing because we're always on Slack. So you just have to enter in a hook. And so for ours, it is market and then the name of the borough that you live in. And then it spits out the address of the markets. So yeah, so we used, first start off, the browser has the API, the New York City Open Data API, then Slack here, and then you put in your query, and then it hits our application in Node-RED, and then we also had one JavaScript file in Whisk that was called from one node in Node-RED, and then yeah, and so here's the city information that goes back into Whisk, Node-RED, and then back to the user. So yeah, this is the first node, and so here we specify the endpoint. So it's .slack2, and then here's our function. Do you want to just double click on it? So yeah, it's just pretty much just cleaning up the query. Right?
And setting a counter, which we never got a chance to use, for the number of records returned.
Yeah, and then here is just the open Whisk node. This is where all the action is happening. So yeah, we actually used to code in C, you said before? Java. So Java's syntax is similar to JavaScript. So we worked on this together. So we had a problem where we didn't want to just list off the first market, but we wanted to list all of them. And then the whole API had, like a list of 2,000 markets. So what we did here was set the length. We looked at the length of the array, and then we iterated until, so basically the array.length.
And then there was provisions in there to pass in another parameter, but that this was good enough for minimal viable products. So we stuck with that. So the other thing to look at is the Whisk function, which really just calls, this was deceptively difficult for such a little amount of code, but to get that line just right with the right parameters and everything took a little bit of extra work. but it really was the secret to the whole thing. And then in here, you just type in, I'm gonna be in the Bronx, today, and where are we gonna go here to get something to eat? And
Yeah.
so it just goes out to that city API, grabs the whole thing, boils it down to 3 and gives it back. And then
And then I have one other one, yeah. So then, San Francisco, as you guys all know, it's a historic city and lots of films have been filmed here. So actually, we found a clean set that shows you all the different films, the years of the director. So then we did something similar. Here is old Alfred Hitchcock movie, Vertigo. And then, so it lists the address, the exact location, and the director and the year, which I thought was pretty cool. Because sometimes, you're on a tour bus and you're walking right by a very famous scene. Everyone knows Full House, so I always the Seven Sisters, that area is quite familiar, but I had no idea there were so many films. Yeah, but that's what we did. Yeah.
And then you can see the follow-on possibilities for extending it out from there with like map information, because if you look at the data that comes back, it's amazing. They've got all the actual coordinates, and you could feed that into Google Maps and all that sort of stuff. So it's a lot of fun to mess around with.
Yeah.
That's it.
There are also hospitals as well, and healthcare centers. Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe.